first thing that you need to work with. So let me show you what I mean by layout. Okay, so let's go to the grid system. So the grid system allows you to put item in form of rows and column. Rows and column. Everything you are seeing on a major website, on a modem website, are structured in grid form. So, and grid form is in rows and column. Rows and column. So let's get to see how to define a row and a column. How do you get to define it? So let's go to our code and see how that can be implemented. So let's go to our code section and come to, we can remove this. I'll just put this in the head so that it doesn't get in our way, and come here and just say we are doing grid. So I said grid are always in row and column. So the first thing we have there is a row. So to define a row, it needs to be inside a column, not just by itself like this. So I want to put some CSS so that it will allow us to visualize what we are doing as usual. I'm going to make all div have, first of all, just give us a nice border. Okay, so next thing we need to do is to make our div visible. So what next thing I want to do right now is make it solid. Okay, that's cool. So what I just did is to create our row, but again, a grid is not complete without a column. So this row is not complete until we have a column inside it. And to define a column, we just say CLO, and we are done. This is a grid system. So let me just call this one. This is a grid. One of the fundamental structure that a grid, standard grid should have, is that a grid has 12 columns and 1 row. So it means in a full grid, you have a row and 12 columns. You can't have 13 columns in a row. If it gets 13, it will move to the next row. That's the way it works. So let's go ahead and populate this with 12 or more than 12 rows to see how it works. So as we populate, let's just name it 1, 2. We've not done anything special, we're just doing rows and column. So I'm sure this is straightforward. Just rows and column now. The next thing we need to talk about is how to merge columns together, or what happens if we have only 2 or 1 column, just as we've seen. If we have 1 column, notice that it took over all the columns in the system. So what happens if we have 2 columns? What happens? It divides it into 2 and have 6, 6. When you have 1, what happened? It took everything as 12. So let me make this one 12 so that it will be visible. So if I do this, this is like 12 columns inside. Then if I divide this, it means each one is 6, 6. If I divide this, it means each one is 4, 4, 4. If I divide this further, it means we have 3, 3, 3, 3. So for context, I'm going to have another row so that you can see how that will play out, and you can compare it with others that we have 1 to 12. So let me make the upper one 1 to 12 so that you can compare with the one that is in the bottom. So I'll make this one 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Okay, so you could see this now. I think it's easy to to see the grid system, at work here. So this is like a guide telling you 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. And this is like a way to show you that each one that you put here, if you did not specify, if you didn't do a normal math, to just make sure that everything will fall under 12. So if you try to delete this, it will just rearrange this 4 to make sure that it matches, this. So if you keep doing that like this, it will try and fit in. You see what's going on here? It's trying to make sure that it fits in into 12. So this concept is very important that you understand. So this 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. This is 5. This is not even a perfect. You can't even divide 5 in 12 to give you an even number. You can see that it's trying all its best to make sure that it gives you that number. So if you have 6, of course 6 is to take 2, 2, 2, 2 like that. Okay, so this is one concept you need to grab. Let me go to the next concept. So what I just introduced to you now is row and column. And in adding column, notice that I just say column, and it's very easy for you to mistake it with the one that I'm going to show you next. The one I'm going to show you next is very rigid. Notice that if I did 13 here, it added our 13 for us. It added our 13 for us at the end. And that's because I'm not enforcing the 12 rule. So how do I enforce the 12 rule? By defining the column that each of them should carry 1. Like each of them should be like 1. This column should be 1. This column should be 1. This column should be 1. So I'm enforcing the 12 rule. By doing this, if I go ahead and try to put 13 here, 13 will not fit into it because originally it is defined to be 12, the rule, but because I didn't use the definition, here, it will allow me to create 13 and make it fluid, like it's just making it dynamic for me to play with. That's what it's doing. So, but the ideal way is that you are going to be specific and say, this column I'm making now is 1. By the way, this is just example. You are going to see a real life scenario where we'll specify numbers and you see how those numbers play out. So what we are doing here is that we are not being specific. So let me now show you how to be specific here. Let's say you want 6, 6. How do you say you want 6? You just come here and say 6. You come here and say 6. And we just put 6 here for visual display. And what do you say? It automatically knows that it will map it to 6. Of course, if you did not put the 6, it will also be correct. However, you will fail to maximize the major benefits, because what happens if you have an uncountable column? It will just do what it needs to do. It won't be specific. So you can see what is happening here, and it's just managing what it needs to get. So, but if you are specific to what you want to achieve in your template, you've seen your template and you know what you want to achieve, you can then go and achieve it. So this one now is not being specific. If you now want to be more specific to achieve this column, to achieve this 1, 2, 3 column, so this means this should be column 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. So that is COL-4, COL-4, COL-4. So if you put 4 here, 4 times 3 is 12. What do you think will happen if you put column 4 here? What will happen is that the next column you put will be wrapped under. So let's give it a try. So it will be wrapped under, which is what should happen. So that's the idea of having specific what you want to achieve. Again, this idea, what I'm showing you, is a guide of how the column system works. Once you see example, you will understand. When we try, show you example, you understand. Okay, so let's go ahead and play with other things. Again, you can go to, and if you've not wrapped all the whole 2, it will let you know that there are still space remaining. As I've said, you just make use of the 6 part you still have this to play with. Now let me show you how to merge columns together. Let's say you want to make this rest, the 6. You want to make it stand on its own. What you just need to do is just to say 6. And because this is 6 already, 6 plus 6 should give you 12. So this will just work this way. So let's go ahead and create a new column again. Let's say in this column, you want it to be 12. You want a new column to be 12. You can just remove all this guy and just say 12. And remove this. And say 12 here. That's what you have there. So you can even put only these 2 or 1 and make the rest 11. So let's do that. So you say this one is 1. Let's make the other one 11. And that's how you have it. You have this one like this, and then you've merged all this one. So let's take this 12. Let's say this is 1, 10, 11. That can be achieved. So you have 0 here, which is 10. You have 10 here. We could do 1 here and 1 here. So that's how you have this structure. So you can create any kind of grid system with this 1 to 12. You can merge, you can reduce as you want, as you wish, to do, you can do. So this first one we did was a guide. Okay, talk about is nested row. So let's go ahead. Since we've understand this 1 to 12, I'm gonna delete everything here and start all over again. And this time around, I'll just do, let me just do 6, 6. So I'll just say 6, 6. So we have this. So inside the, what's it called now? Inside a column, you can have a nested new row started all over again. You have a nested row. So meaning you can have this whole setup that we have here inside this place. Do you see what's happening? So what is happening is that inside here too, by the time anytime you have a new row, remember it's counting 1 to 12 again. It's not because there's a new row here, it's now starting from 6. No, it will count 1 to 12 inside it like this. So let's just demonstrate that. So inside it you have 1. So it will go up to 12 if you keep going, as long as the browser allows you to display that content. It will go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. It will go like that. So this is a fully working row. Everything we've explained is also applicable here. So inside this row now, you can even nest another one. So we want to nest another one here on the bottom. Of course, I'm replicating the same thing. And while inside it, you can then be performing, whatever stunts you need to perform. So I'm doing 5 and 7, which is equal to 12. So I'm doing 5 and 7 row. So you can see that is irrespective of the fact that it's nested, it still carry our 12. If it's outside, if it's inside, it doesn't matter. As far as you've defined a new row, like this part is supposed to be a row, whatever inside will still carry the same row of your 1 to 12 row, which you can implement. Okay, so that is, I needed to explain that that's nested row. So let me go another step further if there's no question. And this next step I need to take we'll talk about breakpoints. So let's reference back to what we have shown before, which is this part. A small device is maybe like a mobile phone, is noted as SM. Then MD is for tablets. XSL are for large screen. Take note of the class, they call it infix. Yeah, So there's prefix, suffix, infix, meaning you add it in between your classes. Take note, very important, SM, MD, LG, XL, XSL. So just take note. So we'll be using them as we go further. So those, what I just talked about now, which is the breakpoints, will allow you to tell the browser what you want to break. Okay, so let's go ahead. Note that everything we've specified here, you could actually change them to mimic a particular breakpoint. Let me now start from beginning. Everything I've done now, let me start it from beginning. What I wanted to show you inside. So let's have another nested row. And let's have 4. Let me call this 4, 4, 4. So let's play with it and see what happens. So what I want to do is that when it's in a small form, I want all these 4 to be on their own. So when it's big like this, I want them to stay like this. So I will now focus on LG, meaning when it's big, let it still maintain 4. So once it's big, it maintains 4. But when it's getting smaller, it becomes individual by themselves. They stay by themselves. Because if we do not do this kind of effects, by the time it's smaller, it's getting smaller, the content there will be coming too tight. If you have a content here, it will be coming too tight. But what we implemented here, make sure that by the time it's getting small, those contents should stay by themselves. So the same effect is what was done on even Bootstrap homepage. This left hand come to the top while this content stay in the middle. This one can go to the right. But if it is not needed, you can hide it totally. If it's not needed in the view entirely, because in a mobile form, you might not need this. This is for you to jump into the contents. So when you are dealing with the mobile device, you might not need this right hand section. So you might just need to do away with it and focus on here. So you can actually hide your content when you are working on a very tiny device and just focus on the content you need to view. So that's how to query specific devices. These are how to query specific devices. So that's what we just done here. So we'll go with example. Once you see the example, then you will then understand as we use them. Let's work with an example. So the example I want to work with is something that we already know, maybe a login screen. You know that login screen for websites changes when you are viewing them on a different platform. So here can be a story about maybe the benefit of logging in, and here will not be your login details. So immediately you are changing the view, the story that they put here will come on top, your form will come on the bottom here. That's an example of how you can make your site responsive. So here I can say login to our app. And just make this one like this. So if you are looking at it from this form, you know, it's making sense like this because it's a wider screen. By the time it's coming to an app, a mobile phone, your login will be like this, and then your form can be displayed here. If you are coming like this, it makes sense because it's a larger screen. So let's just put our form, nothing fancy. So but we already know how to do this, so we don't really need to go out for it. We can just continue on something else that we need to do. So I guess we already understand how to do this part. Login form comes here. So login form, so that will be an exercise for you to do. So this will be where you declare your logo, your app details, what it does, and once the user is shrinking down to a mobile device, This will just be here, and then the form to complete will just flow on the bottom. And that's the idea of having a responsive website. Thank you for staying to the end. I hope you enjoyed this video. Don't forget to like, share, subscribe, and turn on bell notification in order to be notified when we release new videos. See you in the next one.